I'm sure it will be fine. Hello, everyone. It's Marielle. Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have you all today. We are talking about how to show up authentically, how to actually speak your truth, whether it's you're doing a live stream, whether you're creating a post, or you're on someone else's podcast. This is something that's really, really close to my heart for many, many reasons. And also, I'm so excited because I have Elena, I call her Elena, from Mexico. She actually has a place in Mexico, but it's Elena Visionary. And this is one of my really, really, really greatest friends. She actually first started as one of my students inside of the Modern Mystic Business Breakthrough. And I always say one of my favorite things about my business is all the friends that I get to make. And we just kind of gravitated towards each other. And I'm so lucky that you live so close to me, that we can, get together for fun, dinners and things like that. So Elena is going to tell us a little bit about her story. She actually has an amazing, super inspiring story. And she also happens to be an expert at helping women be more self-expressed, both creatively, professionally, in their relationships. So Elena, why don't you tell everyone a little bit more about your business and what you do?
Well, first of all, I'm so excited to be here with you, and I do feel such connection to you. And I'm just honored to be on this journey because we get to meet a soul tribe. We get to meet people that we really resonate with, and we can walk this path together. And I'm just excited to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. I was so
I was just
excited for today.
Yeah, I was thinking this morning because I go early, like I live in Brooklyn, New York, and you live in Jersey, right? So we're very close to each other. And I usually in the mornings go for a run and swim. And I'm just like, I was swimming in the ocean today, and I had that thought about how grateful I am and what a gift it is to be sharing your story. Because from everything that I went through in my life, to be sitting here where I'm sitting now and to really share authentically my story, and it resonates with the topic that we have today, right? We are so lucky, for all of us spiritual entrepreneurs in general, right? And if we're speaking about this topic, this is for the people that are going to listen to this, right? When we share a story authentically, when we share what truly we went through, because absolutely all our experiences in our life, we're there for a reason. We're there so that we can go through them, alchemize them, and then be able to share them with others. And what a gift and a privilege it is to be sitting here today, to be at all talking about this. And I'm just every day I'm so grateful that I get to do this work. And
Yeah.
it's so worth it.
It's so, so worth it. It's so true. When you think about it as modern mystics, if you think about like past lives or who you were before, or how women in general in the past 2,000, 3,000 years have been so suppressed. Modern mystics and specifically have been more suppressed than anyone else. And we've never had the opportunity to share and have so much impact in other people's life in any other time in history. So many of us, like I always say, I'm a social media minimalist, but at the same time, when you think about the platforms that are available to us to share our story and to share our truth, it's never happened in history before. And we have that opportunity to go from one to many. And but then, there's all these visibility blocks get in our way of us actually sharing our truth, sharing our voice, our real stories, the things that really make us who we are and have brought us, this far. Those are the things that really help other people transform. Yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's such a privilege to be able to do the work that we do. So one of the things that I wanted to touch base as we talk today about how to share our voice and our truth authentically, showing up, whether it's on a live stream or podcast or even like in the written form, right? One of those things that I know always stumps my students, and you probably remember, is really coming to terms with your story. and putting it out there in a way that's really authentic and really vulnerable. And I know that when people get to this point, it's like, well, what do I share? Do I really have to share the nitty gritty? Do I really have to what if there's other people involved? And there usually is other people involved. So that's really a very vulnerable place. And I know that you have an amazing story. And when we were talking right before, we went live, we were talking about your story. So tell everyone a little bit about where your background, where you came from, and how it is that you became what you are today, and how you are helping all of these women really stand in their authenticity, fully self-express in all these different areas of their life.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. Just to answer your question too, where do we begin to start a story? I could start my story in my childhood. I could start my story in past lives. I can go as far
Yeah.
and as wide as I can, really. And I think for all of us listening,
Let's start it on Wall Street.
I
How
know.
about that?
Exactly. And I feel that the story always, when you're sharing it with other people, if you really want to make an impact and for them to continue listening, start sharing your story with a minute of transformation. When did you
Mm-hmm.
start to transform? When was this aha moment, a catalyst event, or something that happened, which happens to all of us, is when your story starts changing, when you start living from a different context, when you go through some sort of an identity shift, right? When you go
Mm-hmm.
through something that changes in you, because this
Right.
change, as you experience this change, and I often call it dark night of the soul, you experience it for you, and in the midst of all of this, you never know how you're going to come out on another side. But this story is not just for you to experience. The story is experience for you, and then for others, because when you're transmitting, when you're sharing that story, there's some sort of a transmission happens between all of us, that you're now able to resonate. And we all have different ways, because we all have different paths and karma and whatnot, but the underlying essence of it is very similar, right? It's very similar.
Yeah.
It's for all of us who finally realize that what we thought ourselves to be, that very little versions of us, right? The limited versions of us, when we felt small, when we felt not enough, we didn't really knew who we were. That was my case, even though I was a successful VP on Wall Street. Um,
Excuse me.
you have someone knocking on the door. Yeah, and just to continue on my story with Mary Hell coming back, um, I spent a lot of my time in finance. I came originally from Soviet Union. I came from Russia. I thought that I wanted to live an American dream. I wanted to live the dream where I achieve things when I climb my career ladder, when I do things. You're back.
I'm back. We're actually renting out our beach place in the winter, and
Uh,
she was just here. She's like, "Is anyone here?" Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. I was already speaking. So I spent a lot of time. I had a 20-year career on Wall Street. As I came from as an immigrant, I was brought into this American dream of achieving things, right? So
Yeah,
hard work, doing the hard work to achieve stuff, right? And material stuff, basically,
yeah,
which, which served me for a period of time. And I know now that I needed that experience. I needed that experience because for all of us that are here right now, being in a leadership role to uh, walk people into this new world, right? Walk people into the new earth. We really needed to understand how the old system worked in order to break the system and get into the new way of living. So I needed
yeah,
that experience in my life where I experienced masculine patriarchal kind of energy when I was competing, when I was hustling, when I was doing all those things. And now I was able to transform myself and get on another side where I'm now more in my feminine flow, when I become a spiritual guide. Never in my wildest dreams I thought that I'll be a spiritual mentor at all. It was not on my vision board.
that's actually like the complete polar opposite of Wall Street.
Yeah.
I mean, you were in the most masculine of masculine places, and now you're in the most feminine of feminine places. So that's quite a journey.
It is quite a journey, and it took a lot of self-reflection. And
Yeah,
it
it
took
had
a lot of
to.
work and a lot of shadow work and deep dives within myself to really unwind. And I'm still on this journey. Like, it's not over. I'm
Oh,
still on
it's
this
never
journey.
over.
Yeah, it's gonna take a lifetime. But I think now, being in a spiritual entrepreneurship, that's the most challenging spiritual practice that I took on. Because before I came out of like my closet and started to share it with people, right? I was sharing also for many years, doing my work in a darkness, like in isolation. Nobody knew what was going through. um, and when I came out of it and became spiritual entrepreneur, it really, like, it I really understood that there still was so many things I've never looked at and know that I could, if I were to still have my high paying job and doing things that way. And now, being a spiritual entrepreneur, it really opened up a lot more shadows, a lot more, uncovered many more things within me, because I am now my own product, right? What I give people is me and my energy. So I
It's
constantly
you.
work on it.
That is so powerful that you just said that, because first of all, you know that I always say, when I first start working with anyone, I always tell them, yes, I'm going to help you with all the systems, but just know this spiritual entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur, is an initiation in itself. And sometimes it is the biggest initiation, because you really are facing all of your own shadows. And I have this saying that I've just lived by, a mantra of mine. If you can face those shadows, you're going to find your own light. And especially in what you just said, that we are the actual product. You are what you are selling. And I hate saying it that way, because no amount of money could really pay for that. But, it's so different than any other entrepreneurship path, where you create a product and you just sell the product. But here it's really about, being and owning everything that you teach. And so one of the biggest issues that I see, especially when people are trying to find their niche, and that's so hard at the beginning, because they haven't necessarily fully owned their story yet. And you have to be able to have gone through that transformation in order to teach other people. But so often we're still going through the transformation. So it's so tricky. And yes, someone just said, yes, we are our own products. We have to invest in ourselves 100%. If you don't invest in yourself, how's anyone else going to invest in themselves through you, right? I always say the investment is usually the beginning of the transformation.
Yeah.
And that's really so true. I love that. So, how do you think that, what is the first thing that you love teaching your own clients when it comes to self-expression? Because, truthfully, self-expression and speaking your truth is not just for us entrepreneurs, but I know that a lot of your clients are not just entrepreneurs. There's still women in corporate. There's still women in different walks of life. So what is the very first thing that you love to teach them?
Yeah, so for me, I feel like people that are attracted to my work are people that are going through spiritual awakening of sorts. Maybe they don't define it as such, but there's something that happens in woman's life when they realize that maybe there's the woman that, cross off the list things that society tells you to do, like having a family or having a career or achieving things on external. And there's a moment that comes in every woman's life where you're like sitting here and thinking, where's the bliss? Where's all the promise of a peace and bliss? It never came, right? I achieved all these things. I've done all of the things. Why I'm still feeling inside that something is off, right? So I do attract a lot of women that are in that phase when they start realizing that there's something more to this life. There's something bigger to this life. And I always say that our gifts are within ourselves, and our gifts could be residing in our shadows, could be residing in something that we are not aware of. And I love when women come to me, like my biggest thing that I want them to understand how multidimensional they are, right? So it's not just the story that we know about ourselves, because it's not what happens to us, it's how we interpret it, right? And a lot of us interpret it in a way that we make ourselves feel small and inadequate. And I use, as you know, I use this modality called Gene Keys, because on my journey, I've uncovered so many different ancient traditions, modalities, religions, mystic studies, because I really wanted to go deep in understanding who am I, and just like how this, like, what is this universe? How does it operate? What is the universal laws? Like, how do you manifest? How do you heal? I went really, really deep in my own studies. And then I uncovered Jinkies, and it's like a beautiful modality that combines all of these things together, whether it's a Kabbalah, whether it's the I Ching, the ancient Chinese traditions, whether it's astrology, numerology, human design. It touches on all of those things. And the beauty of this particular system is that what I do, like when people come to me for coaching, I always I always ask them for their birthday and the place and time when they were born, because I do believe it carries a code as to what we're here to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily define us, because I know that we're multidimensional beings in a temporal human experience. That's like the first thing I know, and I want to share it with others. And I think when you change this context about, well, who am I, right? Am I just this? Am I just all the things that, the adjectives after my name, or what I achieved and who I am? Or I'm something bigger than that? And maybe
Yeah.
you remember my stories that I had when I was sitting on Wall Street. For the first time in my life, I meditated. And it happened with Deepak Chopra coming to my Wall Street job, my office, and he was giving a presentation on how to be an enlightened leader, or what it means to be an enlightened leader.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it resonated with the Wall Streeters, right? Like with all these men sitting there, like, why do I have to be an enlightened leader? I could just be a leader. But it resonated with me. I was like taking notes, and he spoke to my soul. I was like having activation after activation with what he was sharing. And then at the end of this presentation, he said, well, we have 10 minutes. Would you like to meditate? And everybody's like, sure, we'll try. And the meditation it was very, very simple. It started with him saying, just silently for yourself, say, I am, and your name. So I said, I am Elena. I am Elena. I am Elena. You breathe, and you just say it to yourself.
Right.
And then you drop the name, and you just, I am. I am. I am presence. I am awareness. I am a witness. I am someone who's not this personality, but someone outside of that personality watching this personality. And when I had that shift,
Wow,
in me,
it's so profound.
It was so profound. That day I came home and I said to my husband, something happened. I'll never be the same. And
I love that.
Same, because I started to have knowledge and teachers and books falling off the shelves, and it just like pouring into me, because I said, I am.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, this is what I want to like.
That was like your moment of awakening. Would you say
It was
that?
a moment of my awakening. Yeah.
That's so profound, because you would think that, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it just crossed my mind. That's so simple. And some of the most profound things are the most simple things. That could have happened. I mean, I'm sure that there were hundreds of people in that room. And other people were probably thinking, oh, whatever, like I know who I am. But to understand who you really are, and this is the foundation. This is the foundation of manifestation. This is the foundation of self-expression. This is the foundation of speaking your truth. It's like, know thyself. And I was just thinking about this yesterday, because I'm going, as you know, I'm going through an entire Kabbalah year. And I was just thinking yesterday or earlier, I forgot when the thought came to me. I was looking in the mirror. I was like, it is such a fascinating journey to just know yourself and to know the multi-dimensions within yourself. Yeah. I mean, that alone is a purpose.
It is.
To know yourself at that depth and all the aspects of yourself.
Yes.
That's the biggest journey in itself.
Yeah. And it's actually the main purpose of our being here on the planet right now, because the very first book that I read after that Deepak Chopra moment in a few days, the book Power of Now came into my life by Eckhart Tolle. And in that book, he explained that we have two purposes. There is an
Mhm.
outside purpose, and think of it as a linear line, right? Us
Right.
sitting right now here in front of this audience and sharing our stories and having a family, or doing Wall Street, or if you're a nurse, or like whoever you are on the outside, yes, you have a purpose. You're doing that. You find in your career, your vocation, of like what you're here to share.
Yep.
But don't you ever forget that you have an inner purpose. And that's what a lot
Yeah.
of people do not embark on,
That's
because
right.
they're afraid, they're
Very
scared,
few
they don't
people.
know what it is, right? But
Yeah.
that's the main point. And when you go into your inner purpose, in your inner journey, your outside purpose starts changing, because you align it differently. This perpendicular starts changing, because the
Yeah.
deeper you go, you also get upgraded on this line.
As within, so without. Yep.
Exactly. So for anyone on this journey, like that's what I want to first introduce to people coming into my world, if they're not already aware of it. And you can go, even if you're aware of it, you can go as deep for the rest of your life on that line to know
Yeah.
yourself.
And I think that when it comes to speaking your truth on social media, and that's why I say it's not just about speaking your truth so that you can get a client. It's really so much deeper than that, because you are taking on a dharma and karma when you are serving others. So if you don't make it a priority to know yourself, then you can't really show up authentically,
I agree.
um, on whether it's social media or even like a stage, right? And it is a journey that lasts for the rest of our lives. So how do you think perfectionism gets in the way of showing up authentically as heart-centered experts
Yeah.
that are helping other people in the world, right? Because I think it does get in the way. Perfectionism, I see it all over the top, everywhere. People just they start living in their own head, and I think it's one of those roadblocks. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And perfectionism is a byproduct of the ego, right? The soul
Mm-hmm.
doesn't care if it's perfect or not. It's the ego who does. And ego, because for all of us, I was such a perfectionist. I mean, to the tiniest details, in the way I live my life, in the way I take care of my household, my children, and the way I show up. Was like, if it's not perfect, I'm not doing it. And I could
Yeah.
beat it up till the last breath to be perfect. And I realized, like, this is just the ego trying to look for validation, right? It's trying to look and be liked by others and be approved of others. And of course, for all of us mystics, right, and all of us empath, early in life, we got, because we were ourselves. Like, as children, we are authentic. There's no
Yeah.
perfectionism or not. We just are. We just show up how we want to show up. But then, because we've been raised by people that were not conscious, right? And I don't know about you guys. I mean, my parents, and growing up in Soviet Union, like, nobody, we're really the one who's standing on a bridge into the new consciousness.
Yeah.
Generation back, like our parents' generation, didn't have the tools, didn't have the awareness to raise us consciously, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we've been put down, we've been shut down. If we were too much, then like all of these stories that we hold, like having within ourselves, and we're walking through life with all these stories. There's so many sub personalities that we've hidden, and because we're wearing all these masks and we don't want people to know and see them, know that we know of them ourselves, it takes work. It
Yeah.
takes work to really look within and see, like, why do I want to show up perfect versus why do I want to show up authentically and just be me. And those who need to hear my voice and those who need
Will.
my medicine, they will. And they
Yeah.
don't hear you when you try to be someone else.
That is so true.
And
That is
I
so true.
constantly working on it myself, constantly working on it myself.
Yeah. It is a struggle to have that level of perfectionism. I always say, perfectionism is really an illusion,
Yeah.
an illusion created by the ego. And to me, perfect is 70%,
Yeah.
75%
Yeah.
good. I believe deeply in creating value And I believe in creating things the right way and to putting amazing things out in the world. Like I definitely believe in that. But then there's also that level of and that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the type of perfectionism that paralyzes you from doing the things that need to get done, that paralyzes you from, going and sharing a message that is actually part of your purpose, and you're meant to share that message because there are people waiting to hear it as part of your soul contracts.
Yeah.
And not doing it because you care more about the way that you are being seen. So being seen authentically, in my opinion, is really about being seen in your complete imperfection, when it comes up. Like there's never going to be, that perfect. I just had someone come into my house and knock on the door. Okay, so that's life.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: I think that people really resonate with when somebody is being authentic, and whenever they can own their small imperfections. I think it really does connect. And in marketing, it's really all about creating connection. That's what good marketing is. Marketing is your ability to communicate an emotion and create connection with someone. Yeah. And so when someone is trying to be so perfect that it's not authentic to them, then it actually creates a rift. It creates a break between that connection that's meant to be there.
Yeah. And people hear not what you're saying, but what you're not saying as well. Right.
Yes. Because being seen and heard is not just about what they're seeing. It's really all about the context of what's going on in the subconscious, the symbols they're picking up on. There's like a whole energetic conversation going on, and when you're going live, when you're doing a live stream, when you're doing a video, when you're on stage. There just is. And that really goes back to, are you taking care of yourself? Are you honoring yourself? Are you allowing yourself to be the permission to being seen? So much of my mastermind is all about divine feminine leadership. I think you told me once at a dinner, you said something about, you're like, Marielle, you're definitely a tantric teacher.
Yeah.
Because it's all about balancing that masculine and that feminine. And if you don't have both, then you can't really, it does require a little hustle to be an entrepreneur.
It does. And for me, coming from the Wall Street is, I really wanted to shut down that part. I'm like, oh my God, I just want to be in the feminine. I just want to flow with feathers in my hair and like jump through the fire and like really switch off and burn all my dark pantsuits. I really needed that. But I then understood, like, yes, I could be in my feminine and know that connection and know that essence and trust that essence. But I also know that I have to have some sort of a structure if I really want to, be really held from that perspective. Because if there's absolutely no structure, at point I felt like, oh my God, I need something. I need my website to work, right? I need people, when they put an email in, there is like, they go through this thing on a back end and able to click on a Zoom link. You know what I mean? Like, that's simple things.
Simple structures, and people resist that a lot.
Yeah, it gave me confidence, because if that works, then I could be authentically here doing my magic.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I say. Systems always liberate us.
Yeah. So that's why, like, I loved being in your group and your mastermind, because it really allowed me to put this together, right? Like, even like, I'm not like big on like, oh, you have to have this particular funnel or this, and this is the only way to do it. No, you can still be flexible and you can still put your own magic into it. But at least some sort of a structure on the back end really helps you to shine on in front.
And there's not one, I always say there's not one size fits all.
No.
There's so many different ways of setting up a structure that really is authentic to you. But I often see people going through creating the structures and setting things up, and still they just can't go live, or they still have this massive resistance to being seen. What do
Yeah.
you think? So let's talk about gene keys,
Sure.
because in our last dinner that you and I had, you're like, "Oh my God, I have to do your gene keys," and I had already given you my birth information. I was
Yeah.
really blown away
Mm.
by how powerful, and by your interpretation of the gene keys, which I had never had. I mean, I've had, my astrological card, all of the everything, but I've never gene keys. So tell everyone a little bit about what gene keys are and
Mhm.
how it can help them become more authentic within themselves so that they can show up more authentically.
Yeah, so Gene Keys is a modality that was created about, I'd say 10, 15 years ago by a guy named Richard Rudd. And
Mhm.
he basically channeled that whole system. But the basis of it, he synthesized a lot of information. And I call it spiritual technology because it is like a
It
technology.
is. It
It's
really is.
so deep and profound. It incorporates astrology, I Ching, which is the ancient Chinese system, human design, Kabbalah, Vedic tradition. Like he incorporates so many aspects into the studies. So basically, we all have DNA codes, and it also incorporates science, which is like it was great for my logical mind to really have a science perspective on it as well. So we all have the 64 DNA codes within ourselves, but based on your birthday, there's 11 that is precisely for you. It's kind of like a map, your soul map
Mhm.
of who
Yeah.
you, right? And it's all archetypes. Like that system is not going to tell you that you're meant to be a nurse or you're meant to be an entrepreneur. It's going to give you an idea of what your life's work is, what your purpose in life is, what your wounding is, right? It shows you based on your numbers. There's 11 codes that are just for you, and this is all archetypal, and it's meant to be contemplated. This meant to be contemplated because we have all these archetypes, 64 archetypes. They exist in nature, and because we're part of nature, it exists within
Yeah.
us, right?
Right.
So the beauty of that particular system, it gives you an awareness of what your shadows are and what your gifts are. And it's so beautiful to know them because we all know we have shadows, right? We all know these concepts, right? These hidden parts within ourselves, but we might not necessarily know what those are and how they show up.
Yeah.
But the gene keys can really show you what those are, right? It can
And that's
show,
really, oh,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
no, like it could show you where you could be arrogant. It could show you where you can be in conflict with yourself. It can show you where you are, in control. And when you know that and you start contemplating on it, and every time that shadow shows up, you're like, oh, I see it. And this is how you heal the
Yeah.
shadow. 50% of the healing is awareness. You're just putting some light into it. It's like, oh, I see you,
Yeah,
So that's
you can't heal what you don't see.
exactly. Yeah.
And usually those shadows parts of us will get our attention through problems, right? When we don't give those aspects of ourselves a little TLC, they will still shine themselves onto something in our life and create a
Always,
problem so that
always.
we give it our attention, and that's how we heal. But what I love about Gene Keys, and especially the reading that you gave me, is that it really is a map, and you don't have to go through all the problems because they're like your shadows are really
Yeah, right here in
staring
front of
you
you.
right in front of you, and it really gives you as a coach an opportunity to know where to start with someone, which I think is really, really fascinating. So what fascinated you the most about my chart?
Oh, yeah, when I read your chart, I was like, of course, it explains it. So your life's work, and let me pull up because I printed it. So it looks like, I don't know if we can share the screen, but it looks like that.
Yep.
Right. So these are 11 codes within your profile. So for you, your life's work is the number 26.6. So each of the keys, there is a code, one of
Yeah.
the 64, and then there is a decimal. So you are a profile, and you could also see it in human design. So your profile is 6-2, which 6 is someone who's meant to be a teacher, and not necessarily you are actually the teacher. You live in your profile, or role model. A role model that is here showing up and being someone, a role model, right? Being someone example of whatever you stand for. And then this is your like sun sign. This is how you show up consciously in the world. And then you have also your unconscious side, which is the 2, which is a hermit, of someone who's like, oh, I don't want to show up. I don't want to be visible.
That, I mean, whenever you told me that, I was like, oh my God, that is like me to the T. And people that's so unexpected, right? Because people are usually, no, you're so outgoing, you know, I love your videos, whatever. And truly, I am either here on camera or at a party, or I'm hiding. And I love my hiding. I love being a hermit. Like, I do not need to be famous. I do not need any of that. Like, as long as I can teach and do what I love to do, that's what matters. Everything else, I just want to be in my little office.
Yeah. And it's fun is when you acknowledge that, right? You're like, okay, I need my time of solitude when I'm by myself, you know, in retreat. And then I know that then I can shop more authentically and be out there as a role model, right?
Yeah.
When you understand that dynamic within yourself, really you get liberated. That when
Yeah.
you're in the moment of solitude, you're not pushing yourself to get there. You know that the time will come when you rested enough, when you absorbed enough, when you contemplated enough, right? And then you go out and show up.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, and what else was interesting in you? So the shadow of your work as a life's work 26.6 is pride, right? And
And
pride,
that's so true.
yeah. And pride in this sense is an ego and a shadow because when you in your pride, you think you know better, you think you got it, you think you're it, you know what I mean?
Not coachable. Yep. I know.
And then you get into your gift level, which for you is artfulness, which is the most beautiful key for someone who's in marketing, right? For someone who's like giving the message out into the world. And this is what we just started talking about, that marketing is really an art.
It
Because
really is.
selling, whether you're selling a product or you're selling yourself, if you can able to do this in an artful way, it's, you know how we all like spiritual entrepreneurs, we're just afraid of selling. Like we don't, like we repel it. We think it's like cheesy. But
Yeah.
if you can turn it to be an art, because now if you're able to sell it in an artful way, it really changes people's lives. You can really impact so many people. So that was beautiful. I'm like, oh my God, like but you're great at it. Like I feel the beauty of the system, Gene Keys, we're always going to have a shadow. As long as we're in a human body, we're always going to have shadows.
Always. Yeah.
But if your shadow is at 10% and you're operating it, or I like this formula 20-80, right? Let's say you know it shows up like, yeah, I'm in pride or I'm in arrogant. Like for me, one of my keys is arrogance. And it's a shadow of a leadership.
Yeah.
And I see how it shows up in my life. There's this key that's called Pearl. And this is the key how you manifest abundance into the world. So for me, I know, like for me, the block would be if I would be sitting here arrogant. And actually, like before I jumped on this call, someone very close to me like highlighted some things for me that I could be arrogant, thinking, well, I have this path that I went through on Wall Street, and I'm like, I have a lot to say about this.
I've been there, done that.
Yes. Then I went to like being spiritual entrepreneur, and I know more than all of you because I've done so much work. Like I could be so arrogant in all of this, but I know if I'm in the arrogance, then I'm blocking my light. I'm blocking my true leadership. Then people don't hear me, right? Then and when I show up in my leadership and when I show up my humility, that's when the really message gonna come through. And the reason why, if this person would tell me this about me and I wouldn't know that arrogance is my shadow, I would try to hide it. But I'm like, I know, here it is now. I'm feeling it. It's here. I'm feeling it. I'm going to feel it. And I'm going to alchemize. I actually have chills coming through my body right now because I feel like I'm experiencing this live.
Yeah.
You know? I'm experiencing this live. And when I'm coming out of my arrogance and coming into my leadership and humility, that's where people can hear me. Really.
Absolutely. Because when you're coming from the shadow side, and I'll say this, when you come from your shadow side, it's going to trigger other people's shadows.
Yes.
You know, it's like we are mirrors unto each other. And when you operate from that shadow side, then you start attracting people who have that same shadow.
Yeah.
You start
triggering. And we talked about this for you as well, right? Like when you're in a shadow, I can really, really provoke people, like really trigger people. I know that in me, like I know it. But I could provoke them and trigger them, and then they like just they turn away and say, well, unfollow, right? Or they can say, I'm not being triggered. And this is how you change the frequency, right? Because
Yeah.
triggering frequency become an activation frequency if you bring it up the octave, right? So if you're not triggering people, but you're activating people, and people are, conscious enough to understand this, they're like, oh, this girl is actually activating me.
Mm-hmm.
What is she talking about? Like, let me look deeper into it. But it takes
Yeah.
their courage to see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes them other people to see that.
Yeah, it's true. So even when you're pissing people off, you're still doing good
Yeah.
work in the universe. And I have to say, as a marketer, first of all, I really felt so seen when you read my Gene Keys, specifically because of the 6-2 and what I do, but also because of the artfulness. One of my archetypes is the explorer / artist. And for me, I show up best in the world when I'm using my creativity. So like when somebody joins the mastermind and I get to help them create their products and their messaging, like I'm like, that's where I just love, that's what I love doing, right? And so
Right up. Yeah.
but the pride thing, I felt so seen because I mean, I've worked on myself so much. I feel like it's like a full-time job sometimes, but it shows up not only it peeks its head in my relationships and, in every single way. So if we can have that level of self-knowledge and know that, like, once I know that can be, and it's in the light, once you say, Marielle, watch out because pride can get in your way. Now it's in the light, right?
Exactly.
Now I can really recognize that. My brain gets triggered next time I feel pride. I'm like, oh, Elena said that was one of my pitfalls, right? So you can actually do something about it.
Yeah.
Because when unless you are, we have all these comments. Unless you have that level, some level of awareness of your shadows, you just can't heal them. That's why I just love so much what you did. And so, how can someone? I know that you're doing Gene Key readings right now. So, can you tell everyone that's listening and watching us, how can they get a Gene Key reading from you?
Yeah. I can share my calendar. So right now I'm doing one-on-one readings, and I so much enjoy them.
I
It
know
is
you love
like
them.
everybody who's, first of all, I'm getting through other people, I get to learn a lot about myself as well. And I'm all about
Yeah.
deeper dives into myself, because we all are a reflection of each other, and we
Yep.
all have 64 keys within us, because we by nature have them all. But then we have 11 that specifically shines into our profile. So when I'm reading someone, like when I was reading yours, I don't have your key 26.6 in my chart, but I so much resonated with the pride and artfulness. It resonated with me, and I've learned so much through your key about myself. So I absolutely love doing them. And I enjoy the one-on-one readings. So for anybody who wants to book the reading, I'll need your birthday, time, and place that you were born. And it takes me a couple of hours to prepare for the reading. That's why it's
How
not
can
just
they get it? Can they get in touch with you on Instagram, for example?
Elena
What?
Visionary.
Elena Visionary, and we'll go ahead and post all of this as well in our notes here. But yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And then one other thing that I want to acknowledge here, because I think it's really important. You have such a beautiful vibe, and you really radiate so much goddess energy. Like, you show up this way, you are always dressed out, decked out, you're beautiful in every single way, inside and out. And I think that women are now really rising up, because as the collective divine feminine rises, other women are waking up, but shining their light in that way, beautifully, unapologetically, is not easy.
Yeah.
It's part of really showing up authentically. So do you have any advice on how to show up beautifully and unapologetically in the world? I mean, I know people that are like, oh, I don't want to post that because I don't want to trigger anyone. I don't want them to think that I am, being whatever, or that I'm stuck up or arrogant or whatever. What is your advice in that department as someone who shows up so beautifully and elegantly and in
Thank
all
you.
your fashion?
Yeah. I think the simplest answer is self-love. It really is.
Mm,
Because for me, and my life's work key is 48, and the shadow of it is inadequacy. And people may not even, when they look at me, like, why would you feel inadequate in any way, right? Because you have A, B, C, D, right? You achieve things, you have things, you look things, like all of that, right? But deep down inside, I would feel inadequate still, right? And I needed a lot of self-love and a lot of self-discovery to, and I feel like this is actually the most feminine key. That's why I'm doing this work, because I so much resonate. So for women, the inadequacy is the shadow, and the gift and the highest vibration of it is resourcefulness and wisdom. And
mm,
it blows my mind every time I think about, like, when I don't feel like, when I can heal my inadequacy, when I can give self-love, when I can have compassion towards myself, even my shadows, doing all that work, then I can really show up authentically. And that
yeah,
comes up in everything, in the way your style is, in the way you serve your table, in the way you raise your children, in the way you help your clients. It becomes art, right? Because
yeah,
women are art. Like my Facebook group, it's called The Art of Being a Woman. It's art to be a woman. It's art
yeah.
to feel all the feels. It's even like, I find beauty in sadness. I find beauty in places that other people may not find it. But it's constantly coming back to my truth and my heart, and really know that my soul is so worth to be here and shine the light. And it's just this human vessel, just part of it, right? Like, as long as I can be available for my soul to shine through, then it's so easy. It becomes
Oh,
easy. And
I love that. What a beautiful message.
yeah.
That's beautiful. So to sum this up, we've talked about, so we've gone all over the place with it, but I think that at the core of this message, it's really about knowing thyself. Know thyself so that you know and you can hear your own voice. You can love your own voice, love your own light,
Yes.
and that way you can shine it. And when you do, it from a conscious place and an authentic place, it magnetizes the right people to you. I can't tell you like how much I love, for example, my soul tribe. Like my clients, I feel are my soul tribe. And every day I think I wake up and I feel so blessed to have these unbelievable souls in my proximity. And at the end of the day, it always comes down to, people always tell me, especially my clients, they're like, there was just something about your energy. There was just something when I saw your videos, when I saw that live stream, there's just something that spoke to me. I don't even remember what you were saying,
Yeah.
right? Because
Same with me. Like, I've heard your voice on Clubhouse, right?
that's
So
how we met. Yeah.
beautiful face and your videos, right? And your smile and your eyes. I'm like, as I do have such a soul connection to you. When I heard you on Clubhouse, I'm like, I need to know, like, I need to know this girl. Like, I want to contact her, because you spoke, like, there are a few things, but again, like, it's not the words. It's like reading between the lines, hearing between the lines, and it's a sound. Like the sound is what our soul is, and when we speak our truth, people hear it.
Yeah, and it starts with self-love and self-knowledge, and I felt the same about you. And that's one of the most beautiful things Nadia says. That's why I didn't read your about page. Nadia's inside of my she's one of my amazing
Yeah.
clients inside of the mastermind. But yeah, so like with your authenticity, with your voice, with understanding that voice and doing it from a place of love and self-compassion and beauty, and knowing that getting to know ourselves is a journey.
It
It
is
is like most
never
people will
boring.
never really even get to the core of it. It is something that takes a whole lifetime, and it's fascinating to discover these multi layers. As I'm going up the tree in Kabbalah, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, it's mind-blowing to me. So
Mhm.
I really encourage you, wherever you are in your journey, wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey, to use it. Use it as your initiation, because it truly is, you know, that the funnels, the paid sales pages, the ad, all of that stuff is great and it helps you, but get the inner stuff done first, and then the next right step will magically fall in your place, and things just come together
Always.
profoundly and magically. And I'm so proud of you and all of everything you've achieved. And thank you so much for being here with me today. I love you so much.
You too. Thank you. This interview spoke to my heart. I love sharing it with you and your audience. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, if we only had microphones when you and I have dinner, our conversations, that would be so fun.
We should start recording them.
Yes, exactly. All right. So I will have posted also where you can contact Elena Visionary here. And as usual, I will be back next week. In the next episode, we're actually going to be talking with another one of my students and graduates from the Modern Mystic Business Breakthrough about how you can start using TikTok to show up even when you have super controversial messages, to actually bring more business into your practice. So I'm super excited. I will see you all next week. Elena, thank you so much. And thank you everyone who joined and all of your beautiful comments. Thank you so much. And let me just read this one. The universe is conspiring. This is so phenomenal. I am a spiritually led personal clothing stylist. This resonates with me beyond excited to be here at this point in time. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I love you guys. We will see you next week. Mwah. Peace out.